What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of Can I Kick It FC. This is your host, as always, Elliot Barr and Shanair Duran II. And is joining us is the man, the myth, the legend himself, probably the guy with the best hair routine in all of USMNT history, Mr. Cobi Jones. How are you doing today, sir?
Absolutely fabulous, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. Look, it is an honor to have you on. Trust me, this guy by himself, even though you taunted his team in the MLS Cup, he is honored to have you on.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I grew up in Boston, so New England
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. There's a history there, right? It goes beyond Galaxy, New England. It just goes.
Yeah, I was at Gillette Stadium. I think it was when you guys beat us in overtime in the MLS Cup Finals.
Yeah, in 02.
Yes.
That was it. 60-some thousand there. That was sorry we had to disappoint y'all. But it was our time, man. It was our time.
Yeah, no, it's hopefully this year is our time because it hasn't been our time ever. I think we've been to the finals. I can't remember how many times. We never won it.
You got the Bruce there, He has a history of pulling off championships.
Yeah. So, Cobi, gotta know, the hair, it was amazing for the USMNT. The locks, the dreads were all over the place. But what was the hair care routine for us thinner folks?
Look, it was dreads for the most part, so it wasn't a lot of hair care, just in the general sense on the daily. But when you're talking about when I had to get it retwisted and get it done, then that's where it took like a full day. And a lot of people don't understand the maintenance that does go into maintaining dreads, where you're doing 3 hours sitting in a chair, having someone twist it, and just go, straight in, actually doing the deep washes, the cleanses, giving you the necessary oils and all that stuff that you've got to put in it. It is a routine. It does take a while.
Who was the teammate you had to explain it to the most what was going on with your hair? Like, who was the one that asked the most amount of questions?
About my hair, there's a lot of different players, through the years. I couldn't even put it on one, but, it's definitely people from different cultures. I'll tell you that, it wasn't, so it's just like every time it'd always be someone new. But then as I became more prominent within the team and just, people wouldn't ask me, anymore, But at the beginning, when you're younger and you're first, all the older, what are you doing? What's going on over there? Geez, I even had my dad asking me, what I was doing. But, that was kind of the first steps of my first steps of rebellion once I went to college, was started growing my hair out and everything like that, So it just became second nature of having to answer questions with people.
I'm glad you brought up college, because one of the things that we talked about in the podcast that we covered your glorious career in was how you were at UCLA during the time of the Rodney King riots. And there was a podcast you did, I think it was by Offsides. It was during the summer, and you talked about how you had to keep a lot of that frustration inside of you, and you didn't want to come across as the angry black man. Can you just talk about what was your mind state at during that time period, and what were some of your thoughts going through that time?
Yeah, it's that time it was crazy. And look, I was, can't remember the exact year of it, but I was a very young man, at that time. And when you look at that, you deal with issues in certain ways, and at that time it's very different than now. So, a lot of the times as a black man, you cover it up, so you cover it up with jokes, you cover it up with laughter, you do all those types of things. I will say my group was pretty tight, though. I got to say I was fortunate enough to have a very diverse group where there were a couple of white guys, we had an Indian guy, we had, 2 black guys in the group. So it was a little bit of a dynamic where we could let loose a little bit more, but just in general at the university, it's a majority white school, and it was difficult seeing everything that happened. It was a difficult time trying to comprehend the judgment and how people could see that wasn't over the line at all with what the officers were doing. And then just during the whole riot situation, it was just, it's one of those things where you understand the frustration, but you don't like what's going down because it was destroying like where I lived. It was destroying part of my city and interrupting everything. But there was an understanding there where I had the frustration too. I had the pin-up frustration. So you get conflicted, within yourself on how to deal with that.
I want to ask you this question. At that time, during the Rodney King riots, did you have like a person you could go talk to in the team or outside the team that you can kind of let this frustration that was building up inside of you, let it out?
No. And that's the big difference, I hope, from then to what people have now. I hope there is a place where people can go if they're and talk. Look, my coach was a great soccer coach, but there wasn't a whole lot, if we're talking about the early 80s, late 90s, there wasn't a whole lot of like, okay, let's have the players feeling, or anything. It was like, get through it and handle it, and you had to handle it on your own. I don't know if there as a black man on this team, how can you relate to your coach that is a white man that is, from his parents are from Germany, and he grew up in Torrance, so it's just a big disconnect, just from the life experience, from what he's gone through and what I've gone through. Not that there's anything wrong with what he's gone through, but there's no way that I'm going to go to him and say, hey, look, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. There wasn't any expectation, of that either.
Yeah, I think that is a really prevalent thing. A little bit of the difference that's going on now. Definitely with the more diverse group in the USMNT that's coming through, players such as Tim Williams, Mark McKenzie, Winston McKinney. How is it for you being, I don't want to say veteran of the USMNT because that makes you seem really, really old. But being a senior, I am really not doing this properly.
Just throw it out there. Ask the question. I don't
being a veteran of the USMNT, how is it for you seeing this diverse group of young black men coming up through the USMNT and U.S. Women's National Team succeeding on and off the field?
I think I love seeing this. I mean, it gives me a sense of honor and pride, that we get to see such a diverse group. But I'll be honest, it's such a majority black group of players, especially on the men's team at various times. I think there was one game, it was a year or two ago, that I think that at one point all 11 players were black on the field, which was unheard of. No one really did a report on it, which I was kind of upset about that. But it was just like, I mean, think about that. I mean, from where we've come from where in my time, there's maybe one or two, but now you were having moments where 90% of the team is black, and that's something important, because it not only does it tell you that it's a sport that is important within the black community, which a lot of people wouldn't have believed. Now think about this, wouldn't have believed 5 years ago. I mean, that's recent. So I'm not saying that you guys are young and all, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
5 years ago, I mean, it's pretty recent, right?
Yeah, no, it goes to show. I mean, especially growing when I was coming up playing soccer, the only other black kids that were playing soccer were either of African descent or Caribbean descent. Me being of Caribbean descent, that's was big. There weren't any. You very rarely saw a black American playing soccer. It was either basketball or football, and I even got made fun of at school for playing soccer. Like, oh, why are you playing that sport? Like, you should be playing basketball. You should be playing football. And I mean, we've come a long way. And to be honest with you, it starts with players like you, players like Eddie Pope, players like DeMarcus Beasley, who really shined for the U.S. men's national team and showed them, wait a minute, this is another pathway to success.
I appreciate that, what you said, but I think it's so important to realize the strength that it takes as an individual, to be able to do this. And I'm talking about you, when you are in a situation as a young kid being made fun of, for doing this, it's very easy to say, okay, I'm just going to go with the crowd and step away and not do it. But it's difficult to say, you know what, I don't care, what they say, that I'm going to continue to push forward in the path that I want to go down and not do what, everybody's telling me to do. And look, I'm sure, similarities, but I know in my case, I was made fun of by white kids, white parents, black kids, black parents, everybody, because the soccer in itself was considered to be anathema, to the black community. So even within the community, it was just like, no, why are you doing that? And that's why I love now that it's such a change. Now we're getting to the point where it's look at the dominance that is starting to happen, and I don't think it's any surprise that as we see more black players going into this game, we're seeing more and more success. There's more and more steps in that ultimate goal of eventually winning a World Cup.
Yeah. So real quick, where you grew up in Detroit, Michigan, the Motor City. How was it growing up?
Nope. I got to stop you before that one.
Oh, really?
I was born in Detroit. But I moved out of there when I was like 3 months old.
Oh. Everyone has believing you was born in Detroit. So, okay, I'll take that back then. Yeah. Asking the question of then, how did you get involved with the Black Star Initiative then, being that they started up in Detroit?
Okay, so I was born in Detroit, raised out in Southern California, but I still have family out in the Detroit area in Lansing, Michigan. And so for me, you always have an affinity to wherever you come from, where your family's been, whatever. And it just so happens, like my first World Cup match, guess where it was? It was in Detroit. So there's these little things that always bring me back, where I've done other appearances in Detroit. So with the Black Star Initiative, with them saying like the first place that they're really going to kick off, it was in Detroit with Detroit FC. It was very important for me to do more of that giving back, in a community that maybe that I wasn't, around all the time, but I still have an affinity to, and a lot of my family is still out in the area.
Okay. So we spoke about some of the adversity and the challenges of being black and playing soccer. But like in the 90s, being a black professional soccer player, what was it like? What were some of the challenges, some of the good things, some of the pros or the cons of being a black footballer in the 90s?
Being a black footballer in the 90s in the U.S., it was difficult to say the least, because as I've said in various ways, there's not many that you can relate to. There's not like really that support system. Whenever you're doing group stuff, group events, you're the odd man out. All the majority of the time. So it's uncomfortable at times. There's a lack of understanding at the times. There's racist behavior quite a bit of the time, that people don't understand. I think we call it, what is it now called, microaggressions or whatever now. There's those little things, that happen in the locker room, or little jokes that are said. And, you're trying to, not until some other players came into the national team could I really have that, that look across the room where we give the stare and just go, are we really going this way? Like with some of the things that are said. It wasn't until like the Eddie Popes and Roy Lassers, came in that I could have that. But, that's it. It was never easy. It's difficult. It's about being strong and kind of leaning on in the areas where you can. And usually for me, that was my family and close friends. One of the biggest strengths in my life and career was my mom. She was the one that was all about being strong, standing up for what you believe in, and not giving a flying whatever about what anyone thought. I mean, my parents grew up in Mobile, Alabama, during segregation. So they knew how to teach me to be strong-willed, and to deal with the issues. And if they could get through all the issues that they had to go through, over the past, over their, youth years, I could easily get over some of the issues that came my way, especially from people that, when you really think about it, aren't people that majority of people I wouldn't see again. Wouldn't care.
Yeah. So we'll make a note that Cobi Jones' mom was the real MVP. We'll make note of that.
Without a doubt. Her favorite motto to me was "beat your best," and that was it every time. Go out there and do a little bit better than you did before.
So real quick, going back to the Black Star Initiative, what are you looking to do with this program? Obviously, it's to bring exposure to inner city kids in high-profile areas. But what are you specifically looking to do with that program?
Well, for me, I want to be more involved. I mean, this is, and what you said, it is basically it. It is bringing, an acknowledgement, number one, that Black kids do play this sport and need the opportunity to play this sport. They need the opportunity to have areas to play. It needs to be in the suburbs and in the inner cities, this sport. We've got to find places for them to play. We've got to find safe places for them to play. We need to bring quality coaching, to these kids, so that they have an opportunity not only to learn the game, but to really love the game. Because I believe you get better once you find out that you love something, because then you become really and truly dedicated to it. So they need the proper coaching, in these areas, and then go up to the next levels as they continue to grow and get better. We need to make sure that people are paying attention. I don't believe in an old philosophy. I won't say, where I heard it, but there was a philosophy of, well, they know we're here, they'll come. No, you've got to go to them. So we've got to make sure that people go out and see the kids and what they're doing and what they're trying to do, so they get those opportunities, to play. We also have to stop all the different barriers to entry. I mean, we talk about, and this is kind of what we were talking about before, before we started this, is the game has changed so much, and one of the big areas that is a big barrier is the cost, to play if you want to be on the better teams. I mean, how is a kid that let's say that both parents are working, going to get on a specific team to be seen when it costs like $4 or $5 grand a year? That's not going to happen. I'll tell you right now, my parents would have said, nope, not today, not playing this, on something else, I mean, those are the things, those are just a few of the things, off the top of my head that need to be addressed, and what I'm hoping that the Black Star Initiative will address a lot of these problems and help, on this path. And my backing of this program and my personal involvement, I hope helps as we continue to expand, across the country, because it really needs to be addressed. And I think that's one of the major problems that we have right now within this game, is making sure that everyone can play it and has the opportunity to play.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that as someone that grew up in the South, and my mom was just like, all right, flag football costs $80, and soccer costs $800. You're playing soccer, you're playing football. So that, I mean, and I definitely understand that. So I love the fact that this program is now trying to help those kids, the kids that didn't get the opportunity like Shanir did, of playing soccer and stuff like that. A sport that they truly love. The access, granted, isn't always there, but there's now this program now that's trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah, we're trying to bridge the gap. I think it's you really think about it, even if it's coming in and giving these small opportunities and chances. Just think about what that can do for a child when they say, "Oh, there are prominent people coming to watch me play." That's at the older levels. At the younger levels, oh, there are people that we know that are of quality that are coming to teach me. It shows the importance and worth of the child and what they're trying to do. So this is important just within the Black community in general, but especially within the Black soccer community. We got to make sure that that we're supporting and trying to give that sense of self-worth. Because I mean, it's simple, really, right? If someone tells you you're good, you're grand, you're fantastic, how are you going to perform as compared to someone that says, "Yeah, I really don't have time for you, not really think you can do it." You know, it's a drastic difference. So we know that. So, you know, I want to be part of that solution of saying, you know what, you are fantastic. You have this opportunity. You have this skill set within you. You've just got to believe, and we're here to help you.
Yeah, I definitely, I 100% agree with that. And also, like, another thing I want to ask you about is recently we've seen a big boom in soccer media of Black writers, podcasters, kind of like we call it in our own realm of Black soccer Twitter. How does that make you feel as a soccer player of seeing, like, you know, your own kinfolk now kind of covering and loving the sport? Versus in a period where there wasn't that many people even had access to the sport.
Well, I'd say about time. No, I think it's fantastic. You know, this is what it's all about. Yes, I wish it could have been 30, 40 years ago, you know, but it's starting now. So the process. And it just shows, you know, for me, it's the outward message that is being put, you know, to the whole soccer community, be it within MLS, you know, be it international, you know, be it in Europe, just seeing a specific focus, not only on the Black players, but also from the Black community about this sport is really important, because the more that we talk about it, the more interest is going to be generated, you know, about this. And then we can finally compete at high school to, well, I used to say high school to college, but I guess we got to go even lower now, that junior high to high school level, when kids start making decisions on what am I going to go after? You know, what am I going to be? Am I going to be a basketball player? Am I going to be a football player? Am I going to be a baseball player? Now we can start saying, hey, am I going to be a soccer player? Because there's going to be that generated interest at younger ages where kids can go on and get all the information that they want, you know, about other Black players that are playing, that there is top Black talent out there playing this game. And it becomes exciting, and everybody wants to be part of something that's exciting and that is part of the future.
Yeah, that is very true. Everyone wants to be part of the cool kids table, and we're glad to be part of it. So another question, I got to ask you this, because we were doing our research. We came across this nickname that seemed really, really cool, and I'm a sucker for cool nicknames. It was Escobar. Can you kind of describe us where that nickname came from?
Cobi, right, Escobion?
Yes. Okay, there we go. That's correct.
Yeah. So my name, Cobi Jones, but in the Spanish dialect, you just go Cobi Jones, like that. And the Escobion, it's like a broom in Argentina, like a broom, like sweeping stuff like that. And it came from basically down 95, Copa America, when we were, the U.S. team, we were invited down to it, and we ended up making it to the semifinals down there, where nobody expected us to do that, where we beat Argentina, 3-0. And I was on that right wing and had a lot of success, and, got the assists and all that. So they were Escobions. So it just kind of stuck, especially within the Argentinian and Uruguayan community. So you'll see that every once in a while come up, and even to this day, some of the players that that were kids, that I know watching me during that time, that are now playing in MLS, talk about that, that they remember me from that Copa America, and still down in Argentina, a lot of the Argentinians will talk about that. I'm always amazed that it just tells you how important soccer is in other countries, that moments like that can last, decades later.
Yeah, no, this guy, the whole time, he was just like, yo, you got to watch the 95 Copa America. You got to watch it. This goal, this assist.
I tell you, I don't know. Look, I want to do it, but someone's got to do something on 95 Copa America. People talk about all the different things, like, that the U.S. team's gone through, like 2002 and all this stuff. But I'm telling you, the intrigue and the stories behind that Copa America And I could tell you some stuff behind the scenes that you wouldn't believe, because people don't have to remember this is right after the coach got let go. A new coach came in. We were going on strike. We didn't go out to trainings right before games. We had no practices and went out and won games. We had players that weren't supposed to be playing were playing and played out of their minds in that game. We beat Argentina, and right across the border where all the fans. Maradona comes into our locker room and congratulates us. I mean, it was unbelievable.
I mean, okay, we were supposed to be on the topic, but crap, let's do it. What was it like in Copa America '95? Because I'm imagining the U.S. program at this point is relatively new. You guys just coming off '94 World Cup?
Yeah, '94 World Cup.
Yep. What is this whole experience like? Like, you're playing against some of these top level teams, Brazil, Argentina. Like, what was this like?
It was surreal. It was also just one of those things like we're just like, what did we get ourselves into? And it was. You got to remember, most of the stories come from not on the field. I mean, you can see that on the field of what happened. It was absolutely fantastic. What we accomplished there. That was something unheard of. One of the most people forget the Copa America is older than the World Cup, so it was one of the most successful tournaments for the U.S., making it to the semifinals of this tournament. But when some of the things. I mean, we didn't travel like the national team travels now. We don't stay in hotels like the national team does now. So it was just a different animal where we're in Uruguay in Paysandú and under extreme circumstances where people weren't sure what was going on. We were in contract negotiations with U.S. Soccer at the time. Let me tell you, that was pretty heated. Let's put it that way.
I can believe it.
And all of this in the middle of one of the biggest tournaments for U.S. Soccer, because as we had just finished up the World Cup, there was a big push for U.S. Soccer to show that it wasn't a fluke, our success there. And so we needed to have a decent performance there. And so naturally us as players thought that this would be a good time to try to get what we needed, which was pennies now when you look at it, but still just trying to get more money for the players for each game. And so it just blew up. The fans loved us. Uruguayan fans loved us. They took us to heart in Paysandú, and they loved us even more when we beat Argentina. So we were like rock stars, after that game. It was unbelievable.
Oh wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I did want to ask. I know this is a very soccer nerdy question, but I'm a soccer nerd. Your assist for the second goal in that game against Argentina to Alexi Lalas.
Mm-hmm.
I think I rewatched your movement probably over 100 times, and I still to this day I'm like, that touch with your left foot, I don't know if it was the instep of your left foot that pulled you away from that Argentinian defender. Like, what was going through your mind in that moment when you sent that little cross into the
question
left?
is, were you just weak? That's the real question.
Because I still can't figure out how that touch worked. It went against physics in my mind watching it.
Well, it was, what I was thinking at the time was like, I got to beat this defender. That's what it comes down to. And how can I do that? And it's a bit of a drag with that left foot, to bring the ball with me, across my face, and away from the defender. And to be quite honest, Alexi and those guys, they like to make fun of me because it was just like, a lot of times I just stutter step and go, that's a little bit of what it is. It's a little bit of a stutter step, but also attack where you initially set the defender up at, and that's it. And a lot of people look at soccer and just go, okay, oh yeah, and you hear the announcers, right? Oh, he beat his man and he got the cross off. But there's so much more, that goes into it, where you set up the defender, that how you attack the defender to put him on the wrong footing, and when you make that move to beat him. So it's a lot of different things that come into it, to beat that defender. And for me on that one, it was trying to set him up, get him wrong-footed, get me where I could could pull the ball along with me to get it across and create enough space to get that cross in. And all you need is a yard, and that's it. Take them on and do it.
So it just sound like and1 basketball to me. That's what I'm referring it to.
And one, there we go.
So talking about South America, you also played in Brazil. And from my knowledge was, I think there's probably been only like a handful of Americans ever to play in Brazil. What made you want to play in Brazil, and how was that experience?
Well, I mean, Brazil's Brazil. That was the reason you want to go down there, right? And you'll understand it even more so. I was at Vasco da Gama, one of the top clubs down there at the time, and I was living on the beach in Rio. So that's where I stayed, and then for the next few months I was at Barra de Tijuca, which is like the higher end part of Rio, and was on the beach there. So it was a wonderful time, kind of looking out my window and seeing the ocean and the Copacabana beach, was where I was at the beginning, and then kind of that was home for 6-7 months. And just kind of cruising up and down Copacabana, not bad, and then just the experience of playing there, I learned a lot. Experience, I learned kind of like the joy of the game, because I come from England, and that's like that workman ethic. Work, do your job, get after it, go again, keep going like that. And then going down to Brazil, is a completely different animal, and just the approach of it. It was a much more free flowing, still expected to do your work, but it was also, enjoy it, enjoy the work that you're doing. And so I think that's what kind of helped my career when I came back here to MLS. Just, it was a nice balance, between the two, and having an understanding, because no one can tell you that Brazilians won't work hard, and develop their skills, but there was an enjoy about the, and that's what really started to understand when Brazilians talk about the beautiful game. It is a beautiful game, but there is work involved in it.
So if MLS never gotten started, or if they never approached you, do you think you would have stayed in Brazil longer?
Probably. I probably would have stayed in Brazil, or, at the time there was talk of going to Japan at that time, which was really interesting, but it was also the negotiations were going on with MLS and all that, just trying to figure out what was going to happen. And, I mean, remember, MLS started, I think, was it a year or two later than it was supposed to, because it's supposed to start right after the '94 World Cup. But they had to get a few things in place beforehand. But so we all had to kind of jump off and figure out what we were going to do in between that time. So for me, I was figuring that I just needed to do something for the 2 years before the MLS started, or in that dead time, so to speak. So that was my expectation. But if they had said MLS, isn't happening for another 5 years or so, I would have continued to look somewhere to play.
So one thing that we found that was really interesting in your career at LA Galaxy, talking about that move, was you were the longest serving player to play for your team. What does that mean to you, especially playing for the LA Galaxy for that long period of time, and playing with players like Landon Donovan and others greats like that?
It was fantastic. I mean, I came into the Galaxy in '96, the first year that it was established. And mind you, like I said, the negotiations in Brazil were happening with that whole LA Galaxy situation. I always love to tell this, but I chose the LA Galaxy. That's what people have to remember, is that, and why I say that is because I know that there were two other national team players that were offered to play in LA before me. And so I wouldn't have been able to go there, but they said no, because they didn't think soccer would be successful in Los Angeles. So just had to put that out there. So for me, it was home for me. This is home. LA's home. I loved it. I grew up here. My family was here, so I wanted to be, near with my family and friends, and to be part of the Galaxy, over the years and the decades, and see, playing with Campos at the beginning, and Cienfuegos and Eduardo Hurtado, then kind of continuously going, and Carlos Ruiz, and winning our first championship was really special. And then Landon coming, and we win the second championship, and then David Beckham coming in. And I saw the progression of this club and organization, throughout, the decades, and I'm still here to this day, working with the organization, and I've just seen it just continuously improve and set the standard, for MLS. So for me, I'm proud to be a part of it, proud to be a part of the history, because that's something that, will never be taken away, especially scoring that first goal in LA Galaxy history. No one's ever going to be able to take that one away.
Real quick, about one of those championships, like what was the vibe like in MLS or in LA when you won that first MLS Cup? Like, as you obviously you've seen, like in Atlanta or in other cities, it's a lot different than like how it is now. Like the whole city's behind it. But how was it early on winning those first MLS Cups in LA, where we know it's Showtime, it's the Rams, it's Oak? Like how was it?
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. It was fantastic. I mean, we've been to the Cup a couple of times before and did not win the championship. So when we finally won, in New England, playing against New England at their home. Sorry about that, man. First, it's that odd situation of, you're celebrating at the opponent's, home field. But, for us, it was that, or for me at least, it was that sense of relief. It was that exalted feeling that we've got championships. I was ecstatic. It was like one big party. And as I say, like the Galaxy set the tones. Maybe it's a little different now, but even this is 2002. Back then, when we came back, they had, a celebration for us at Staples Center, where all the fans were able to come in. They had the big banner up for us. So it had the feeling of now way back then, so you can even see, like, you had the speeches, where we got up on stage and did the speeches for all the fans and all that stuff. So it was fantastic. It was great to be a part of it.
That's dope. Yeah. I was just afraid, like, they was just like, y'all just came in town. It was just like, oh, that's soccer.
Fans were waiting for us off the plane. They're waiting for us when we came home. So it was good. It was good to see.
So the other thing about your career that was really cool to see is that you lead the USMNT in all-time appearances. We dubbed the episode Mr. USMNT. Is that a fair assumption to say? Like, calling, like we said on our podcast, we were finished wrapping up also, like, the USMNT, and not saying that they don't, but really should be pushing you as the face of the team, because you lead the team in appearances, and you can't write the early history of the USMNT without your name to it. Is that a fair assumption to say?
Well, I mean, I would say so. I mean, it's when you put the facts out there, they're the facts, right? That's just part of it. I was there a lot. I was playing, the majority of the games. I was there for a decade, consistently playing with the U.S. national team. And now it's very different, from then till now, where, I can't imagine, like, if we had social media then, what it would have been like. It probably would have been like a whole nother level. But when you talk about back in the day, just having the constant participation with the national team over the decades through so many coaches, that's hard to do. And I think it will never get the credit that thing will get now, just because time is different. Social media blows everything up to like another level. So it's just like, But if you look at the stats and the difficulties of someone playing for that long and being available for that long, not having the major injuries, and all of that, to put up those numbers, it's something special. And for those naysayers and the haters that are always out there, take a look at other countries when they have, the players that have the most caps, or even not even just the players with the most caps, but the top ones that have so many caps. There's a certain amount of respect that goes out to it, because there's a knowledge that to be healthy over that amount of time, to be able to continuously play, that's an achievement in and of itself. And that's one of the blessings that I've always had. Fortunately, I'll knock on some wood here, is that I've never had the major injury, in my career. And that was one of the big benefits, for me.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We're glad you didn't have the big injury either, because this podcast wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Jones, we want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. We kind of end the pod, every interview, with a couple of rapid fire questions. So, are you ready for these?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. What songs were on your pre-game music list before every game? What was the number one song you had to listen to?
On my pre-game music list?
Yes.
From back in the day? Dang, man. That's going like way back. It would have been anything from like maybe some Tupac or Jay-Z, something like that. I mean, well, I did have a lot of NWA back in the day. But I gotta say, that's definitely from my college years on. I was rocking that quite a bit, I have to say.
Okay. You are a UCLA Bruin, but you're an LA Galaxy hero also. So if you had one ticket to one game, would you rather go to UCLA USC football or LA Galaxy LAFC game?
Galaxy LAFC. I'm soccer first, man. Come on, man.
I gotta ask.
Come on, now. I'll tell you something. Back in the day, I only got to maybe one or two football games in my whole career at UCLA, because soccer always conflicted. So I never got to see any games. I think I saw one, maybe.
Okay. I'm not going to lie to you. My dream is to go to the Rose Bowl one day and just be there for the pageantry.
You want to go to the Rose Bowl for a football game, or a specific football game?
For the Rose Bowl, like the actual Rose Bowl.
For the actual Rose Bowl?
Yeah.
I might be able to help you out. I might be able to help you out with that.
That would be a dream. I would be forever indebted to you. The next question we got is favorite city and your favorite meal from that city.
Favorite city, and you know what? The funny favorite city. I mean, for me is I love LA, dude. So and. Favorite meal would be, I'm a big sushi guy, so I do love sushi, so I could say that. But let me make this more interesting. How about the favorite city I've traveled to, or something like that? How's something like that? I'd say for me, there's a few places. One that stands out for me is Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. That was probably one of my favorite trips, going there, because they took us on an event where I got the opportunity to actually ride on an Arabian stallion in the desert in Saudi Arabia. I mean, how incredible is that? We had dune buggies and Arabian stallions. It was fantastic.
All right. There you go. All right. Very last question, sir. Current USMNT player that reminds you most of yourself, or USWMNT star that reminds you of yourself.
I mean, for me, that for the men's national team that reminds me of myself, I would say he doesn't play in the same position, but I would say a Tyler Adams. And the reason why is because if you pay attention to him, don't pay attention to how he plays, pay attention to his attitude. And he's a competitor. He's a grinder, and he gets upset and will fight, for every little thing. And that was what I was like. Even though I like to have fun out on the field and everyone could see me laughing and have a good time, it was like what an old coach of mine used to say, we're having serious fun. It's like I wanted to win every little thing. And you ask any of the players back in the day, they could probably, if I'm competitive, they say, just a little bit, because I will fight on any little thing. We could be flipping a coin and I'd be competing, with him. So Tyler Adams that, because I have that feeling that he's just like he's a competitor and wants to win and compete on every single ball, every single play.
I can definitely see that.
I think you did well with the rapid fire questions, sir.
Okay, all right. I hope I didn't answer too long with all this.
No, you didn't. I just look forward to these Rose Bowl tickets coming soon.
Hey, shoot me an email. We'll talk. I'm on Rose Bowl Institute board, so we'll see what happens.
Cobi, once again, man, we just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of it. I think the biggest thing we got out of this interview for both of us is that you definitely deserve that respect, and we're glad. We're definitely going to be giving it to you a lot more and pushing your name out there as the face of the USMNT.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. I like having backing. Everybody needs it.
Yeah, definitely.